The vice presidential nominee of the Republican Party will speak tonight at the RNC. It comes in day 3 of the convention, which is taking place in Milwaukee. That's where we find the Hill's congressional reporter Mychael Schnell, who just spoke with House Speaker Mike Johnson. What did he have to say?
Yeah, hey, Mike Johnson. I had a pretty short interview with him, but we got to hit a lot of topics. One of the more interesting things that I heard from the speaker was he said that he hopes that it is his hope, rather, that House Republicans pick up 10 seats in November. Now, I asked him specifically, was it his expectation that Republicans get 10 seats? And he didn't want to go that far, saying he didn't want to he was wary of setting expectations and putting a marker on it. But he was saying he's hopeful that Republicans will be able to pick up at least 10 seats. This just underscores the idea that Republicans are very bullish about their chances come November, A, with former President Trump leading in a number of polls, B, with President Biden's approval rating still underwater, and C, with voters still showing they are very concerned with issues like the economy and immigration, which are two matters that Republicans, generally speaking, have a leg up on over Republicans. So a really interesting comment there from the House Speaker. It's about 4 months out from the election. It's interesting to see where his mind is, because it's not just the presidential election in November. The House and the Senate are also very much so up for grabs.
Usha Vance, the wife of J.D. Vance, is being thrust into the spotlight. She is from California, the daughter of Indian immigrants. The couple met at Yale Law School. What else should we know about her, and what role is she playing at the convention?
Yeah, well, we are actually going to hear from Usha Vance tonight. As you mentioned, the wife to J.D. Vance. She is expected to be one of the speakers who introduces J.D. Vance tonight before he speaks on the convention stage. Of course, he's going to be speaking not just as Senator J.D. Vance, Republican from Ohio, but also as officially former President Trump's nominee to be vice president. This is going to be a really significant moment as we hear from him, potentially hear about his vision for the country, why he wants to serve alongside former President Trump, what his hopes are, what his thoughts are in the current state of the race. And that's all going to start tonight with Usha Vance, her introducing her husband on the main stage.
Last night featured speeches from Ron DeSantis, Marco Rubio, and also Nikki Haley, who was one of the most vocal critics of President Trump during the GOP primary, former President Trump during the GOP primary. What was it like when she spoke at the arena?
Yeah, well, Drew, Nikki Haley came out to claps, and also there were some boos here on the floor. I was right around here on the floor of the convention when Nikki Haley came out and started speaking. So it started with that sort of mixed review as she got on stage, but at the end of it and afterwards, she just got all applause from this arena. And I think that is a big reason why, is because the sentiment that Nikki Haley had in her speech. Very early on, she was quick to note that she fully endorses former President Donald Trump in his bid for the presidency. She said, look, there may be some Americans out there who don't fully agree with former President Trump. She said, I can understand that. Her, of course, being somebody who was very clear about her disagreements with Trump on the campaign trail. But she went on to make the case that former President Trump is a better option for Republicans than President Biden, and to put aside those few differences and support President Trump come November. It was the unity was sort of the word of the evening, Drew, with Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, two key competitors of former President Trump during the campaign trail and during that Republican primary, making the case for why their former rival should be in the White House once again.
A former Trump administration official was released from prison today and is expected to head right to the convention. Peter Navarro was the White House trade advisor during the Trump years. He spent 4 months in prison for refusing to comply with a congressional subpoena relating to the January 6th investigation. What role will Navarro play at the convention, and have you spotted him walking around?
Yeah, I haven't seen him yet, but he is on the schedule to speak tonight, this evening at the convention, right on the stage behind me. And this is likely going to be, I think that something that we can expect his remarks to touch on is the weaponization of the Justice Department, which is something that we have heard Republicans talk about on a number of occasions. It's been sort of one of their key talking points amid the election. And Navarro, somebody who just spent 4 months behind bars, he is somebody who can speak to that directly. Of course, he defied that congressional subpoena, which then led Congress to hold him in contempt and the Justice Department to then put him behind bars. So I expect to hear sort of that from him, but curious to note if he talks about it all, his experience in jail, and to see what else comes out of that speech this evening.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell was booed during his speech today. What do you think that says about the state of the Republican Party?
Yeah, Mitch McConnell announced that Kentucky's delegates back on Monday night, the first night of the convention, announcing that Kentucky's delegates would go to former President Trump. It was a pretty raucous crowd here on the floor at that moment, with some boos for Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. Of course, Mitch McConnell was somebody who very publicly broke from former President Trump in the aftermath of the 2020 presidential election. Mitch McConnell condemning former President Trump's efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. They then sort of tried to mend fences a few months ago when McConnell officially endorsed Trump for the presidency in this statement. And then they spoke when Trump visited Capitol Hill and met with Senate Republicans behind closed doors. But nonetheless, it shows that the base of the Republican Party, or at least the folks that were here in this convention hall on Monday night, are still frustrated with Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. Again, this was as he was announcing Kentucky's delegates for the former president.
All right, Mychael Schnell at the RNC. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Drew.
Congressman Adam Schiff is calling on President Biden to pass the torch. The California representative has become one of the most prominent and high-ranking Democrats to call for Biden to drop out. In a statement first reported by the Los Angeles Times, Schiff said he had serious concerns if Biden could defeat Trump in November. Schiff's statement mirrors calls from fellow Democrats who have called on Biden to withdraw from the race after his disastrous debate performance last month. Senator Elizabeth Warren says there is a path to codifying Roe v. Wade. The progressive Democrat announced Wednesday that the Senate has enough votes to suspend the filibuster and protect abortion rights. That's if Democrats win control of the House and keep control of the Senate and White House in November. Senate Republicans last week blocked a bill to enshrine the protections of Roe v. Wade into law. The vote failed 44-49, falling short of the 60 votes needed to break a Republican filibuster. That's today's Daily Debrief. I'm Drew Petrimoulx. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Hill's YouTube channel, and come back here soon for the intersection between politics and policy.